Welcome to Pluralsight's mini podcast series featuring individuals that have broken into the tech industry via non-traditional methods and backgrounds. We're Josh Ruggles and Carla Wright with Pluralsight, and I'm joined by Danny Thompson, software developer who now works at Dev Ecosystems. Thanks for joining us, Danny. Can you tell us a little bit more about yourself?
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. I'm super excited to do this with Pluralsight. It's one of my favorite educational platforms, to be completely honest, and I've learned a ton from it. So to do this is honestly an exciting moment for me. A little about myself, for those that don't know, I'm Danny Thompson. I'm D Thompson Dev on social media. For over 11 years of my life, I fried chicken in gas stations, and that's pretty much everything that I knew. And at the age of 30, I kind of found myself at a fork in the road, where I said, if I turn right, I'm going to be in this gas station until the day I die. Or if I turn left, I've got to make a change. It's got to be now, and I don't know what it is. And it was at this time that I saw this amazing interview. And the reason why I got into tech was because of a rapper. This rapper invested several $7 million into a tech company, and he's being interviewed about it. And he said, why did you make this choice? Why did you go down this path? Why invest in a tech company? And he said he's learning how to code. Now, this blew my mind because I never knew somebody from my kind of background could ever learn how to code. I always thought coding was reserved for the PhDs and the rocket scientists of the world. I never thought an average human being of average intelligence was working in this, area. And so he's learning how to code. I'm like, whoa, why would you want to do that? And the reasoning that I came up with was profound. This led me down the path that I was going down. Why don't I know more about the amazing machines that I touch 90% out of my day? Why is the extent of my knowledge on using a computer, opening youtube.com and watching some cat videos? Why don't I know more? What's their limitation on my intelligence in this area? Why don't I even know why my laptop costs $2,000? Why don't I know why my smartphone costs $1,500? What's RAM? What's that? It's all buzzwords until you put something behind it. So he starts learning how to code, and so do I. And I get on freecodecamp.org and I just start learning. And in the beginning, I knew HTML, CSS, and I used that as a starting point to start building things. And I never started with the expectation of I'm getting a job in tech. That still wasn't even in the realm of my thinking at that point. It was more along the lines of I'm going to make a website, and this is going to be the best website in the whole world. Everybody's going to be excited about it. People are going to want to come here. And then as you start learning more and more, you start realizing how tall of an order that actually ends up becoming. And you start learning how SEO kind of controls how people find your website and traffic. But I think that was the spark of, I want to do something, and I don't know how this thing works. So I'm going to keep researching and continue down this path until I get this one thing to operate the way that I want it to operate. And then I'll pivot to the next one and keep doing the same process. And for me, that has always been my style of even learning. I'm not so good at the video tutorials. I'm good at project-based learning where I'm building something. And as I start making these things, I have a purpose to research this thing. For example, let's say I want to learn Golang. If I have a purpose to learn a feature, I'll get onto for the lack of a better example right now, Pluralsight, and I'll go on Pluralsight and say, hey, I want to learn this thing about Golang. I start watching a little video, start looking at a blog article, boom, I can combine it together and make this amazing thing happen. And for me, that has always been the source of my learning, or my path down any field is I need it to have a purpose somewhere. And as I learn and keep that progression going, I can continue building my foundation off of that. And for me, that's exactly where I started. And to be completely honest, I feel like I owe my entire career to one thing: meetups. And I was going to these amazing meetups, meeting incredible human beings that want to help others. They start giving you resources, they start giving you support. And if it wasn't for meetups, I genuinely do not believe that I would be anywhere in tech. They were the source for all my doubts, solving my doubts. I'd go to people saying, I don't know if I'm cut out for this. I don't know if I can do this. And I'd be in a room full of people oh, we've already been there. We've done that exact same thing. I remember one of the best moments, I met this amazing human being where he is highly respected in our area. And he said, yeah, I sent out a push notification to 300,000 people by pure accident. Almost lost my job, almost lost my career. And when he was telling me the story, he said, I told it to my mentor. My mentor was like, oh, that's it. Because I think one of the best things about a meetup or even networking with these individuals is finding out everyone makes mistakes. Everyone fails at some point in this career, and pivoting past that failure is where you learn the most. And to find out that everyone is fallible, everyone makes mistakes, it kind of gives the sense of normalcy in a field where imposter syndrome is so paramount. We almost get this feeling that everyone is a genius and I'm the only one that doesn't know what's going on. I can tell you right now, I've been in this field now for 5 years. Half the time, I still don't know what the hell is going on. Like, it's just figuring it out as we go. And I think that's the pursuit of knowledge in tech. It's always evolving and growing.
You answered some of my early questions. I mean, we were going to ask about why you're known as the chicken guy, but that totally makes sense. I mean, you went from frying chicken to, full into the technology industry. And I'm just curious, so what were some of the major challenges? You mentioned some of the conversations you had on Google Meets and everything. I'm just curious, what were some of those big hurdles that maybe you felt like you couldn't do this or, that you had to overcome?
One of the biggest challenges for me entering this field was feeling like I belonged in here. And the problem really was when I started trying to apply for jobs or talk to people, I said, they don't want to talk to somebody like me, because not only have I never worked inside of an office, I don't actually know what the inside of an office even looks like. Why would they want to have a conversation with me? Why? And I remember I started going to meetups and I started asking the one question everybody asks when they don't have a job in tech: how do I get the first job in tech? And I heard the exact same answer over and over and over again, like a broken record played on repeat. Oh man, that first job, whew, that's the hardest one. But if you get that first job, every job after that becomes easier. To someone like me, that is the worst thing you could ever tell me. Not only did you demotivate and demoralize me, you've now made me question what I've been doing for the last 6 months. But you've given me zero action items. I have no way to get from A to B, from X to Y. You've given me nothing to work off of. And then I realized in that moment that everyone that was coming to this meetup asking that exact same question was getting that exact same answer. And I said, something has to change. So I'm in this gas station working and I find out about LinkedIn, and I get on LinkedIn and I start reaching out to these hiring managers and I start creating this profile. And in the beginning, nobody paid attention to me. I DM these hiring managers and they're like, who the heck is this Danny guy? Now they're like, oh, I love Danny. I knew Danny from the beginning. Danny's great. But it never would have changed that perception until I started reaching out to them. And the problem was, in the beginning, I was even too afraid to reach out to them. And I realized one specific thing. All these hiring managers that work at these Fortune 500 companies and all these big buildings and all this, prestigious positions, I said, the chances of them ever walking in my gas station is zero. They will never know I exist. So what do I have to lose by sending them a message? Because if they say no, I'm literally in the exact same position, breading this chicken, dropping it in the fryer, going on about my day, nothing changes. But if they say, that's interesting, maybe we can have a conversation, they'll invite me to their office and I can actually walk inside there. Because that was the thing that I was really disassociating myself with. How can I come into a situation where they even acknowledge my presence or the fact that I'm trying to do something? And I had a ton of imposter syndrome. I'd walk into these meetups after work. I was working 80, 90 plus hours a week, making just enough money to still be broke. And I remember I'd walk into these meetups because I'd come straight from work and people would joke around, be like, hey, what's up, Popeyes? Because at 20 minutes in, the entire room smells like fried chicken. And I'd play it off like a joke, but deep down, I was like, I'm not on the same playing field as a lot of these human beings. Because a lot of them are coming from colleges, or they're coming from offices, or they're coming from companies where they're doing something related to this field, and I'm trying to break in, and I'm not even on the same level at this point. And I said, I have to do something different. And I started seeing that all these people that are trying to break in the field, they're having similar problems of, how do I get people to notice me? And I know everyone goes down this arbitrary task of apply to job, apply to job, apply to job. And I said, when you apply to a job, you're a blank name on a blank piece of paper and you're trying to stand out. It's a really difficult task. So what I started doing when I'm going to these meetups is I would take pictures of developers working with other developers, pair programming, answering questions, and I'd post it on my LinkedIn, but I'd be showing them in a different light, right? And I'm showing them they're actually helping people. They're working with their community. They're doing stuff. And guess what started happening? I started getting messages from a lot of the developers that were showing up to these meetups saying, hey, where are you posting my picture? And at first I was like, oh, I must be in trouble, like, posting the photo. And they're like, I was contacted by a hiring manager because I saw that they saw me at this meetup and you're posting these pictures. But I started developing this whole network around hiring managers. I still didn't get a job in tech yet, but I was showing that I'm active in the community. But guess what? They're seeing it. And so now you're walking into an interview like, I know you. I've seen you before. And we started helping people get jobs in tech, get interviews that they were not able to get before because we're showing them in a different light. And that's when I started working with developers to kind of get them noticed. And I still remember the first person I ever helped land the first job in tech. I was with him literally when he got the job offer. He was so happy, so excited that he literally had tears well up in his eyes. And I realized in that moment, nothing mattered more to him than bringing this goal to life that he's been chasing for 18 months. And nothing mattered more to me in that moment than sharing that moment with him. And so I helped the first person land the first job in tech, and 1 became 5, 5 became 10, 10 became 20, 20 became 40, 40 became over 600 people landing the first jobs in tech in like the last year and a half. And I've absolutely fell in love with this process. And I was helping so many people. I remember I helped like around 40 people land their first jobs in tech. And one of them actually said something to me. They said, Danny, you're amazing at helping other people, but you're really bad at helping yourself. Because I was so focused on helping them that I never actually started interviewing myself. I was still doing all this from the gas station. And I said, you're absolutely right. And so I spent the next several months just focusing, honing in on my skills and landing those interviews and getting those jobs. And it was fantastic. It worked out. And I think that goes to show that no matter your level, wherever you are at in your learning path, you can absolutely share and bring value to a conversation. And I think people often forget, well, I only know HTML, CSS, JavaScript, let's say React. I don't know enough to really help others. And I think that's the opposite idea. Every single day of the week, someone deciding to learn to code for the very first time. You know something now that you can share in a way that may be the perspective that somebody needs to make a difficult concept more approachable. Share it. You never know who could help. You make a post, make a blog article, make something, but sharing that idea could possibly change someone's entire career trajectory because you decided to write something that day. And that's kind of been my strategy for the last couple of years now.
I love that. I love that it started as you helping others and finally getting to helping yourself. I love that angle of it's almost like you backed up into it in a way where you didn't just keep hammering at recruiters to hire you. It was more help others get there, and you're building a community around yourself. So by the time you actually started applying, the doors seemed to have started opening because you were already ingrained in the industry.
The one interesting thing there is when it comes to networking, right? Because I think that should be a goal for anybody, right? You need to build a network because your network will constantly produce opportunities for you. I think a lot of people, when it comes to networking, they're like, okay, Josh, what can you do for me? What opportunities do you have for me? What can you bring to my table? Instead, I think networking is more about the genuine connections that you're building. And oftentimes a genuine connection is mutually beneficial. Mm-hmm. And I think instead of going into these opportunities with a begging mindset, right? Oftentimes, especially with beginners, I see them begging for an opportunity. Please just give me a chance. Give me a chance. Just please give me a chance. Instead, they need to be walking in with a value mindset. I'm valuable. I bring value to this conversation. I bring value to this team. I'm going to bring so much value that you're going to fall in love with me. Because if you bring value, they will bring a checkbook. It's as simple as that. No company in the history of the world has ever turned down a surefire bet to make money, right? So oftentimes being valuable and bringing that purpose will help develop that connection. But also oftentimes one of the best ways to network with people is being a connector. If I were to come to Josh and say, hey, I know Jack down the street. Josh, I know you're hiring for a position. Jack is fantastic at it. I make the connection between the both of y'all. Josh is going to remember me because I brought a valuable candidate. Jack is going to remember because I brought him an opportunity, and they both will remember me down the road when something new comes along that they think Danny's a perfect fit for. And oftentimes you can build an incredible network doing that. And plus, where else can you make value and help people at the same time? It's like a win-win scenario. You can't lose there. You're helping people, you're helping yourself. Why not do it for the greater good?
It's just an awesome story to help others that are trying to break in. I just love that you took that angle of not being that guy that's like, give me a chance, give me a chance. It was very different. And I think that speaks volumes for yourself, but also just how it can work for others. Just don't focus so much on you, focus on others, and things will start happening. I really like that. In general terms, like, what do you think qualifies as a non-traditional technologist? Our definition is someone that didn't start in technology, they re-engineered themselves to get there, type of thing.
But for me, I feel like everyone's a non-traditional technologist because you're not born with a computer in hand and a tablet in your left hand and a mouse in your right? Like, this is something that you draw yourself towards. And I think it's the same thing even with an accountant. I don't think anyone's born like, hey, I'm going to spreadsheets. That's my jam. I love a good spreadsheet. No, I think it's something that you kind of gravitate towards. And I think one of the coolest things with technology in particular is, where else can you be that you're literally building the future? Like, every button you make, every line of code you write, it's literally going towards creating a future of better user experiences for people, solving more problems. And why wouldn't you want to do something like that? Where in so much of the world, we have fields where people are almost clinging on to the past. This is a chance to kind of build the future that you want and solve the problems that are interesting. And I think that's, for me, programming isn't so much about the code as it is breaking down the problem to an easier solution to scale. And if you can break down a complicated problem to the easiest terms, like, that's something that I'm really attracted to. Even when it comes to content creation and like creating tutorials or something, one of the things that I do is I have this problem at this level right here. How can I break it down to the lowest possible level that I can tell it to anybody and they get it the first time around? Because a lot of content, I feel like, especially online, is almost held at a standard where it's meant that you need to consume it several times. How can we break this down even further to where we break it down to it's the easiest possible level for someone to consume? I'm obsessed with that idea on everything, whether it's content creation, whether it's building a house, or anything possible. How can I break this down into the simplest possible term? One thing that you'll see about me is I don't use a lot of the jargons. I like to use common language when I talk because I want someone to get it, whether they have been in this field for 20 years or 20 minutes. And I remember I released like an entire article on creating array methods. And I remember I kept breaking it down further. And the most common comments I got from people learning at that moment was, I've been stuck on this for a while. Like, I just read this once and I feel like I've got it. That's where my motivation for creating content and creating ideas comes from. Because if you can help someone understand it the first time around, then they're going to progress to harder level concepts and be able to break it down easier as well. But I feel like when you have a deep understanding of that concept, you can kind of scale with it. So for me, a non-traditional technologist is just someone that is finding that they're enjoying the problem solving. But also, I feel like this is a great paying field as well. There's nothing wrong with being attracted to having a better lifestyle and a better income bracket. I mean, how many other fields can you kind of break into where you can basically change the entire lifestyle of your family because you decided to learn how to write a couple lines of code?
Yeah, very well said. You kind of answered this question, but I want to see if we can dig in a little bit deeper. But do you think that there's a type of like mentality or personality that gravitates towards technologists? You brought up problem solving a handful of times. Do you think that that's like a prerequisite? Or if someone's just like, hey, I've got to make a change, do you think that they could be successful as well? Or do you think that problem solving is a big piece?
Problem solving is definitely a big piece of being a developer, right? Because that's what we do day in and day out. We're solving problems. And to be completely honest with you, no one's paying you six figures or whatever salary it is that you're making because they want you to watch a YouTube tutorial to code out how to make a button. They're doing it because they have a problem that they need solved. You are the problem solver. They're going to tell you in an abstract way, hey, we need this button on this website to respond in this way when it's clicked. Figure it out. It's your job to figure it out. They're not giving you the lines of code and saying, type this exactly like this. They're saying, this is what we need to happen. figure it out. So you're doing your research, you're searching through Google, you're searching through Stack Overflow, you're searching through blogs, YouTube, etc. It's that pursuit of knowledge that makes this a lucrative field, but it makes you a more valuable asset to a team to find it, right? It's almost like a treasure hunt. You're given an arbitrary map and your goal is it's somewhere here, figure it out. And that's where you're going down, right? I think that's an amazing way to kind of put the realm and the idea of what a program is. You're finding a solution that you don't know where it might be, but you have an idea of it could be here, could be there, and experimentation. And to be completely honest, 90% of the stuff that I work on, I honestly probably have never worked on it before. And I'm very rarely am I like, oh, I know how to do this right away, click, and I'm done. Most of the time it's, okay, I have an abstract idea of what needs to happen for this to work. So let me figure this out. I think another aspect of being a good programmer, in my opinion, is be comfortable with being a fool. Because the fact of the matter is, the people that you think are absolute geniuses in this field have doubted themselves continuously. People that, like, I have yet to meet a developer at any level working at any prestigious company that hasn't had imposter syndrome at one stage or another. Even people that, like, you would consider mentors, they've been like, man, there was a time I didn't know if I was going to make it. There was a time where I was like, whoa, I don't know if I'm going to actually make it in this field. I almost quit my first job in tech within the first week because I deleted a working branch that we were working on, right? I didn't know any better. And like, I was so stressed by that. I'm like, that's it. They figured it out. I'm not cut out for this. You know, I snuck through the interview process and I made it, but I guess I'm going to walk out.
Yeah, they found me out.
They found me out. But I think one of the things that I always say all the time, especially when it comes to development or just in life in general, I have like 3 principles: fail, pivot, grow. If you don't fail, you don't know if you've pushed an idea far enough or not. And if you fail, it's completely okay. It's not the end of the world. Pivot to where you need to be, right? So you find out A doesn't work, let's pivot to B and grow in that environment. But make sure you understand a failure is not a failure, it's a lesson. It's only becoming a failure when you're too stubborn to take anything away from it. I fail all the time. I absolutely love failing because it lets me know I'm either on the right track, I'm on the wrong track, and it allows me to grow and move.
I love that. So one thing that kind of brought to mind is you've brushed over this question a few times, I guess, but what are some of the advantages and disadvantages that you feel like you had or others may have resetting their career? Let's say that. So like for someone resetting their career from, like in your situation, frying chicken to being a programmer, what are some of those like disadvantages you felt? I think I know the answer to some of that, but then what are some of the advantages that you felt like you're coming at it from a different angle or something like that?
I think the biggest disadvantage, especially coming from where I came from, the kind of neighborhood, right? No one says like, hey, be a doctor, be a lawyer. That's not really the conversation that's held. It's, hey, you should be a bus driver. They have really great benefits. You should, that if you work for a union construction company, unions have great benefits. That's what you're told. That's your ceiling. That's your limit. That's where you can aspire to be because we don't know any better. I was never told be a developer. That wasn't even a conversation that was had there. Like that wasn't told to anybody. I didn't know that I could even think about being in this field. For a long time, that was the thing that kind of held me back. I didn't know that I had the permission to be in this field. If it wasn't for that interview, I don't think I'd be in this field. And I genuinely appreciate people sharing inputs and ideas, but that's part of the reason why I even do what I do now and talking on podcasts and talking out loud online, because I don't know who needs to hear a message in what way to know that they're allowed to walk this path. Simple as that. Like, I don't know who needs to hear it. And so people are like, why do you talk so much on Twitter? And why do you give all these public? I don't know who needs to hear what they need to hear, how they need to hear it. Sometimes I repackage the same message because maybe it didn't hit them the first way, maybe it hits them the second way. But if they are then told that they're allowed to take this path, they're allowed to walk down this field, but most of all, they're allowed to thrive in this environment, I think that's huge. I think that's crucial because sometimes just knowing that you're allowed to be somewhere is all you need to know to say, I'm going to kill it. I'm going to be phenomenal in this industry. And for a lot of people that I've met that were career switchers, even being in this field, sometimes they're met with some like crazy gatekeeping with like, you're not a real developer, you know, you didn't do this, you didn't do that. And it's very prevalent in this field. It's definitely prevalent in all fields, but tech in general, there's definitely like a gatekeepy kind of community. And it's okay, because guess what? Maybe you're not a real developer. Go spend those fake paychecks. I think you'll be just fine taking those fake vacations. That's just kind of my opinion on that.
I love that. So what about some of the advantages like that you've seen? I mean, like that piece about just give us permission and we will kind of break the door down. What are some of those things that like after doing this for a while, you realize like, hey, my experiences before being a developer helped me, you know, do X or Y?
Yeah, I think the best lesson that I ever learned when it came to like creating our fried chicken recipe, right? We didn't get it right on the first try. It was iteration and iteration and iteration and getting feedback and getting more feedback. And some moments you'd be like, I know this has to be the recipe. And then you get feedback like, no, this is not it. And you're like, back to the drawing board, right? And I think that was probably one of the biggest advantages before entering tech. You know why? I used to take code reviews so seriously to the point where, like, if someone's like, hey, you know what? I see what you wrote here. I would fix it by doing X, Y, Z. And my immediate reaction was, oh, I'm a bad developer. You're saying I'm a bad developer. You're saying I don't know what I'm talking about. I've been working in this field for a while now. I've been studying for a long time. And now you're saying I'm a bad developer. You are not your code. Your code is an extension of something that you've created, right? You've used your knowledge at the moment, you've used your knowledge at the time to create this thing, but it's not a direct reflection of you. And it took me a while to figure that out. And once I did, that was the best thing that ever happened, because I would now walk up to people and tell them, tear my code apart, because what they're giving me is valuable feedback to improve upon my skills. I'm iterating, and I'm working. And that feedback allows me to go back and say, okay, I can improve here, I can improve there. I still make mistakes all the time. I made a tweet the other day, which was a technical tweet. And one of the first comments within the first minutes was, hey, this is really cool, but if you did this in this way, it would be better. I literally copied that comment, tagged the person under it, and posted it right under mine saying, hey, you may want to do this instead. This is a better way presented by XYZ. I don't have all the answers. I'm figuring out day by day. The crazy thing about tech is the correct answer today may be the wrong one in a year from now. Like, it's always evolving. It's ever changing. And being open to iterating, feedback, and improving yourself will take you from a developer stuck in one level and allow you to rise to the next one. Because I've gotten feedback from people that I genuinely appreciate, and it's only made me better every single time. And I guarantee you, if you're more open to that criticism, as long as it's valuable, like the internet has trolls. Do not get me wrong. Some people just exist because they want to see that frown come, right? But other people are, and that's kind of what I love about tech. There are other people that really want to see you thrive, and they'll give you that little critique, that little technique, that little tip that changes everything for you. So I think taking feedback and running with it in the right way is probably one of the best things you can do as a developer.
For sure. I can definitely relate as a writer, and it's definitely at first maybe hard to get that feedback, but once you've been, you know, punched in the nose a handful of times, your nose starts getting harder and you're like, okay, you know, you take the feedback and run with it instead of, you know, collapsing on the weight. One thing I'm curious about is, as you got going, when did it feel like I've got this? I mean, was there like a point when you're like, I'm actually doing this, and I've like, you maybe overcame that imposter syndrome?
I've been in this field for almost 5 years now. I'll let you know when it happens.
Fair enough.
Like, I'm still figuring it out every single day. I don't have the answers. I don't always know the right thing to say. I don't know, you know, the proper process all the time. And I think that's okay. And I think being comfortable with that idea will allow you to grow. I genuinely don't believe anyone will ever master anything in this field. I think they just become really good at finding the right answers. And I think that's probably like the biggest distinction between, let's say, a senior developer and a junior developer, is they know where to look for that information. They've been around the block a couple times and they know this process connects to this. But at the end of the same time, they are not some of the best senior developers I've ever met. And matter of fact, I'll tell you this story right here. I just came to my mind. One of the best situations that ever happened to me was within my first couple weeks in tech. I used to beat myself up because like I'm like, why do I have to keep looking up the syntax and why don't I know this and why don't I know that? And I remember I went to a senior developer with like over 20 years experience in this company, knew the code base like the back of their hand. And I remember walking up to him saying, look, I've been stuck on this problem. I'm trying to figure it out. I'm trying to make some progress. I have no clue how to progress. And I show it to him. He's kind of looking at the screen. He's like, I have no clue. And he just starts Googling right in front of me. Like it made my brain explode because I thought, why does a professional developer need to Google? I thought Googling was for the beginners. Every developer that you know, no matter their level, they're using Google, DuckDuckGo, whatever. They're using a search engine of some kind within their day. Simple as that. Like a person that says like I never search anything is just someone that is not like telling the truth. Like it's a very false statement. Everyone is searching everything. And the earlier I learned that, it made me okay with the idea of saying, oh, if they're searching with 20 years experience, why am I beating myself up to memorize every single piece of syntax? And it's okay if I forget something. What matters most is I understand what I'm looking for, and I'm able to turn that into a search term that delivers the desired result. And the earlier you can do that and the better you can do that, the more quickly you'll find the information that you're looking for, but it's also going to be the quicker you get yourself on the right path of delivering the proper solution.
And that kind of lines up right with the shirt that you're wearing right now. So it's true.
I'm so addicted to programming merch. It's like I see it and it's like, please take my money now. I don't need my money. I'm so bad at it. Like I've got a whole closet full of just random programming merch. I'm just obsessed with that. I love it.
We've talked about your journey and we've talked about kind of like those high points, low points. So what would you say to a friend or someone on Twitter or something that's like, hey, I'm in that position you were in, you know, when you were cooking chicken and looking left and looking right and trying to figure out which one to go to? Like how do I go? Like, where do I hit the go button and just start getting into it?
So I actually was just talking about this probably a couple hours ago. What does your goal look like? What does success even look like for you? And some people are like, man, you know, I don't know what success looks like. I don't know what it is that I want. I think identifying that early allows you to start working backwards and creating the path that you want to go down. Like if I know I want to be a developer, I can now start working backwards saying, okay, I need to do this. I need to do this. I need to do this. And when you do that, you're actually making actionable, real steps towards that goal. But I also think one thing that's crucial is we as developers, we as people, we're always so go, 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 that we're always so focused on where we're going that we actually don't ever take a minute to stop and realize where we've been and where we are now. Because I'll talk to somebody that's like, I've been doing this for 4 months. I'm not making any progress. I'm like, oh. There was a moment you didn't know HTML. Now you do. There was a moment that CSS was this crazy monster you didn't know how to like tackle. And now you're making things look great. You are literally in the middle of something that you used to look forward to. Give yourself the permission to take your time and get this right. It's okay to be going all the time. It's okay to be motivated towards what it is that I'm trying to achieve. But please take a moment and be like, man, I really am crushing. I am doing this. I'm making websites that look decent, right? Like before it used to be just a block gray button. It used to be just, you know, a text in the middle of the screen. Now I can style it a little bit. I can add a background to it. That's progression in the biggest form. Celebrate those small wins. Coding is all about the very consistent small wins. No one wakes up knowing JavaScript. No one wakes up knowing React in a day. It's the culmination of very consistent effort that delivers you where you want to be. So it's constantly trying, constantly learning this small thing here, learning this small thing there. That consistent effort delivers it. Now, being consistent doesn't mean you need to kill yourself. Being consistent doesn't mean that you need to code 365 days out of the year. That is not what consistency is. Being consistent is, I'm heading down this path. I know the steps that I need to take, but most of all, I know that I'm learning this thing today, I'm learning this thing tomorrow, I'm learning this thing next week, but working towards that thing. I would rather you code 5 days a week, 30 minutes a day, than for you to code 1 day a week, 5 hours a day. because you're going to cover more in those 5 days than you ever would code in that one session, and you're going to retain more. I think that is crucial. So just be very, very consistent, but identify what it is that you really, really want. For me, I know exactly what I want. Matter of fact, not too long ago, I was offered a very nice position, making way more than what I'm making now. I turned it down. Money is not my objective anyway, though, but I turned it down because it's not what I want. When you know what it is that you want to do, nothing in the universe can sway you off your path, right? I know what I want. I know the path that I'm headed down. I know what is there for me because it's what I want. I think for a lot of people, they don't have a clue as to what it is that they're trying to achieve. They're just going with where the universe is blowing them. And it's okay to do that to an extent, but actually having like a tangible goal kind of changes things for you in the right perspective. So knowing what it is that you want will change everything. So identify that, work backwards, and I guarantee you'll get exactly that.
I love that. I'm just curious, like, how did you formulate that goal? Obviously, there's a lot that goes into formulating a life goal, but I'm just curious, like, how you create that sort of North Star for, you know, if you were talking and mentoring with someone or mentoring a new technologist, how do you help them shape that?
I think when it comes to certain goals, I don't think we can actually create goals for human beings. Like, I wouldn't be able to create Josh's goal, and Josh wouldn't be able to create mine. I think you need to know what it is that you want. To give you an idea, when I first started, like the very first day I got on freecodecamp.org, I'm a very big believer in writing my goals down. And because I feel like when we say something, haven't you ever walked to the kitchen, you're like, I'm hungry. And you open the fridge and you're like, why did I open this fridge? Like, you've completely forgot, right? But if I write it down, even if I forget, it's there. Even if it slips my mind, it's there. So in between my computer where I'm at right now and my TV, which is behind here, I have a wall. On that wall, I have a bunch of index cards with my goals on them. And on April of 2017, I wrote down, become a software developer. Simple as that. I've been coding for a while. I'm like, this is what I want to do, become a software developer. It's still on my wall because I still feel like, okay, there's areas I need to improve upon. Some have said take it down. I don't feel like I'm ready to take it down yet, but I can tell you that for me, I feel like that was the best thing that I ever did. And I think writing down that goal, it becomes actionable. It becomes real. And now one other problem that we have as human beings is I'm willing to hold Josh at a higher standard than what I'm willing to hold myself at. And so if Josh breaks his promise to me, I'm like, man, I don't like that Josh guy. But when I break my promise to myself, that's okay. I feel like once I write it down, I'm making a promise to myself that I can't break. Or if I break it, it has to be for something better. And so all the goals that I have are on that wall to, you know, help people land jobs in tech. When I helped my first person help land a job in tech, I made the goal of 10. Once I hit 10, I put up the goal of 20. When I said, you know, I'm making 50 grand in tech, I want to make 80. When I was making 80, I want to make over 100, and so on and so forth. I think writing that goal down gives you those actionable steps. That's very crucial.
Yeah, I really like that because I mean, I've always heard the, you know, writing it down kind of thing, but I like something you said in there. It's like you're almost, you know, making a commitment to yourself, and it's harder to like weasel around it. Like, you know, if I break a promise to myself that I didn't write down, it's like, well, I didn't mean it like that way. It's like you can almost justify or wiggle yourself out of it. But if you write it down like clear as day, I'm going to be a developer, it's harder to be like, well, you know, like spin it to something that you know, like to fit your new narrative, I guess. I really like everything we've been chatting about, and I appreciate the time. I'm wondering if you have a couple more minutes to do some just rapid fire questions for fun.
Sure, let's do it.
Awesome. What was your first job ever, not tech?
Laying asphalt, and it sucked.
Yeah, I can imagine. Nice and warm for you. How do you keep your tech skills current?
Honestly, I'm a very big believer in you're a byproduct of the people that you choose to keep around you. So when you keep great developers around you, they'll keep you kind of in the know of new emerging tech and new ideas and new techniques. And meetups, honestly, meetups, you learn a ton.
If you could do a TED Talk not on tech, what other subject would you pick?
You know, this is interesting. I was approached to give a TED Talk and I turned it down. For me, the goals that I have and the people that I want to help aren't in the room of where a TED Talk is delivered. So I wouldn't give a TED Talk.
That's a good answer. Fair. Have you ever wanted to quit being a programmer? If yes, why?
Every single day. And I fall back in love with it every single day.
What's a secret talent of yours you wish more people knew about?
Well, they kind of do know about it. I have an amazing shoulder shimmy. I have a GIF on Twitter that went like crazy viral last year of me, shoulder shimmying down. And I guess that's a talent that I think is awesome.
Nice. What is something you believe in, but most people disagree with you in?
That we need to hold ourselves accountable for the things that we want in life. And oftentimes we're ready to blame so many other people. And I think people think that's a crazy thought, but I like holding myself accountable.
iOS or Android?
God, Android. Both are great though, but Android.
Yeah, what's worse, laundry or dishes?
Oh, dishes all day long. That's why, like, when we moved into our new house, like the first thing I bought was before even the washer and dryer was the dishwasher. Like, there's no way. Dishwasher all the way.
What are you reading or listening to, like book, blog, podcast, etc.? Like, what are some recommendations you can toss out? It doesn't have to be tech related. Just what are the goods?
I just finished one of the books from the Witcher series, and I was about to start the next one, but instead I actually bought this book by Chet Hayes. Not paid endorsement, but I'm gonna throw it in there, right? Chet actually spent 4 years interviewing the team that created the Android operating system. And he created this book, and it goes through the ins and outs, the ups and downs, the ways that they failed and how they went past it. I just started it, and it's beyond incredible. Really, if you've got $20 and you got a couple days you want to kill reading something interesting, it's been pretty mind blowing how they like orchestrated that whole thing. I'm really enjoying that.
That's awesome. Well, Danny, I think we're about at time. Do you have anything else you want to add?
Yeah, I think the one real like highlight that I want to push, the success of another human being will never ruin yours. And oftentimes I think people forget that. So just because, using this example again, if Josh succeeds in something, it doesn't mean that I can't succeed as well. So instead of trying to tear another human being down or to block them or to be like, oh, I'm so mad that they made it and I didn't, uplift, support one another. I think the strength of a human being is by how much they lift others up as well. And if we can all thrive and succeed together, that makes a better industry, that makes a better community, but most of all, it makes a better version of you. So please support the success of another human being. You never know how that can turn out for you. But also, if you can do anything, if I've helped you in any way, and I say this all the time, I don't ever really charge to help people. I like helping people. I have an entire series on LinkedIn that is completely free. If you need help trying to find a job in tech, that would be the first place that I would start. We're rolling out an entire bootcamp style kind of curriculum that's going to be completely free. We're working on the resume crash course to help you write the perfect resume to land a job in tech. All that's completely for free. I don't want to monetize your entry into tech. I want you to get these jobs. But please, if I've helped you in any way, even if this podcast episode has helped you in any way, I just ask for payment in one way. Volunteer. Help another human being. Whether you're volunteering at a meetup, whether you're volunteering at a boot camp, whether you're volunteering at a homeless shelter, just help someone somewhere. And when you get to where you're going, please don't be the wall that blocks someone's entry, but be the open door that kind of lets them in. Whether it's answering a question, whether it's mentorship, whether it's explaining a concept, just do something to enrich the life of another human being. That is the only thing I ask. Thank you very much for having me on this episode. Thank you very much for listening. I'm D. Thompson Dev. I'm Danny Thompson, and I appreciate you.
Awesome. Thank you, sir. Appreciate the time, and I'm hoping to have you on again soon. So we'll stay in touch.
Absolutely.